This is Andi Purewal, Boxing News. I'm joined by promoter Eddie Hearn here in Sheffield. Eddie, always a pleasure. We've just had the weigh-in. Quite noisy, still is noisy. What did you make of Leigh and Josh on scales?
I thought, as we see, I thought Josh looked very well. Both fighters looked drawn, as you'd expect. Leigh Wood struggles to make 26, but he made it well by all accounts. And, every time we see him on the scales, it's the same thing, isn't it? Oh, Leigh Wood looked tight. He's tight every time. But he will rehydrate to a monster in there tomorrow night. But I thought Josh looked very fresh. I think in the head-to-head, it was almost like a coming together to say, I'll tell you what, let's fucking have it tomorrow night. Do you know what I mean? And you're going to see a great fight between two amazing servants of British boxing. And I really think the atmosphere in there tomorrow night, are going to be amazing.
Everybody's expecting fireworks in that main event, Eddie. How assured are you that he will deliver what everybody's anticipating there? Just start dribbling.
I think that, I feel it's a bit harsh if I get the blame if it ain't a great fight, but when you make a good fight and everyone says, how can this be anything but a great fight? Leigh Wood has given us so much drama in the last 2 years, and Warrington's always in a great fight. He's going to set the pace. He's going to walk Leigh Wood down. He's going to explode in big combinations, and Leigh Wood has the power to take anyone out at any time. Sometimes a little bit susceptible to getting hurt. Does Warrington punch hard enough? He punches fast enough. He punches it in bunches. I can't see anything but, with the atmosphere and everything given, I can't see anything but a thriller tomorrow night.
Every intention, Eddie, for whoever is successful, is the plan to move that guy up to face Joe Cordina?
I think it's just really big fights, Andy. The winner has to fight Komatov. And with all due respect to Komatov, who's a brilliant fighter, it just doesn't mean anything at this stage in her career. So these aren't guys that are looking to reign as world champion for years and years, and they just want the biggest fights. They want to test themselves on the biggest nights, and that might come with another belt, or it might come by moving up, maybe to super feather, fight Joe Cordina or somebody else. I don't know, but I think Leigh Wood is probably the guy that's looking to move up more than Josh Warrington, who is a career 126. But I think tomorrow night will tell us everything about where their career lies.
Just to stick with the featherweight division, Eddie, before we circle back to the card, Michael Conlan, Jordan Gill, December 2nd.
Maybe.
We all saw the leak earlier. So.
Tomorrow night, I don't know where these leaks come from. It's very annoying. Tomorrow night we announced two cards. One is a next-gen card. One is such a great night of boxing, which we'll come back to. But yeah, I love Conlan against Gill. Jordan obviously was on a great run, got beat by Kiko Martinez, and now wants a big fight. Conlan's just got knocked out. It's a great fight. We'll see.
We will see. Just on the Jordan front, if it happens to be him versus Mick in December, why such a wait for him maybe not to have at least a run out, because he obviously hasn't fought since that Kiko?
I think ideally he would like a run out, but at the end of the day, when you've been fighting at the top level, you don't need 8 and 10 rounders, and we don't. I said the other day in an interview, and I always reiterate, and we're going to be putting more pressure on fighters, more pressure on managers, more pressure on trainers and advisors to take fights that we believe are the right fights for them, but also fights that complement the card, get the fans excited, make people tune in, put bums on seats. When a fighter really, really, really needs a run out or that kind of fight, we will do it. But we can't have it every way. If you guys, not you, but if we're going to get criticised for a fight on the card, all because we were almost pushed into that by the team to make it, it doesn't work for us. We've got a responsibility to do the right things for fighters, but at the same time, we don't want to see Jordan Gill in an 8-rounder or a 10-rounder. It's a bit like Kevin Ajako, who will major news for him coming. He's done, and his team have done the right thing. He's ready. If he ain't ready now, he ain't gonna be ready for this fight. So you have to roll the dice, and I'll pay the money for the right fights. But what I'm not prepared to do is pay money for nothing fights, because we've got to be tighter as a sport for that sort of thing, And it's not just it's not UFC style, you're fighting him, see you later, but it's guys, don't you think this is the right opportunity? And for Jordan Gill, you look at it and you say, well, what is my future? This is a big fight, big payday. I win this fight, I go on to massive fights in the division, and I think I can win this fight. Roll the dice, you've got nothing to lose. And for other guys who have had the preparation, had the grounding, had the experience, time to roll the dice a little bit. I'm not saying we're all out gambling, if it's a 70-30 or a 60-40. Don't worry, if you're good enough, you'll win. And that Belfast card, maybe, is an absolute banger.
Eddie, just moving away from this potential Belfast card, back to this card, Terri, Harper, Cecilia, Braekhus, finally getting it on.
Yeah, I love the fight. I think it's a tough fight for Terri. I know she's perceived to be the favourite, but what does she weigh, 150.4? Like, she could easily make 140, easily, and maybe even 135, but she won't like me saying that. But so the disadvantage for Terri is the size. She's going to be 150.4 in the ring tomorrow. Braekhus is going to be 160 something. She's going to be 10 pounds heavier plus than Terri. So Terri's got to be sharp, you know, and understand that this is a real fight against a legend of the sport in Cecilia Braekhus. But for Terri, it's a unification matchup that she really deserves, and it's her breakout night, and she deserves it.
Kieran Conway and Linus Udofia is a fantastic fight, Eddie. What do you expect from it?
Yeah, I think that, you know, we got, I mean, even Janae Boston's in a really good step up, but also Conor Coghill against Hopi and Linus against Kieran. These are like, I don't really like the term trade fights, do you know what I mean? But ultimately, the people that are excited about those fights are the hardcore fight fans. I know what people like, and I know when I put this card together, even the people that don't particularly like me or us go, fair play, that's a great night of boxing. And you know what? I'll never say to you, I don't care what people think. You know, I don't care about the criticism. I care about the criticism about the shows, not about me, not about what I've said, but about the product and about the night. And when I go to a show like tomorrow night, I go, fucking hell, this is a great night. Like, I can't wait to sit down and watch the whole card. And I know that even people that might not be our biggest fans will, for one night only, hold their hand up and go, fair play, this is a great night of boxing. And that's what we want. That's what you always want. And that goes back to just being a little bit firmer. And we've got to be prepared to lose fighters if they're not prepared to give us the right fights, the fans the right fights, whilst managing their career properly and you know, respectfully. But we've got to just be tougher as we move forward and say, I want to build a fight card that I go to, and I know when it's a great card. And I'll sell every card to you. And some I'm selling, not half-hearted, but I know it's a 6 or 7 out of 10. Saturday's a 10 out of 10. So we're going to really enjoy it.
Eddie, obviously we haven't had a chance to catch up properly for a week, so just a couple of topics to run by you, get your thoughts on. I'd originally thought that Dmitry Bivol would go out on the 2nd, so what's the latest with Dmitry and his plans?
So we are mulling over an international fight for Dmitry on actually the same night as Haney, and we'll see if that plays out. If not, he could still go December, but maybe also very, very, very early in January. But it's still the front runner for him to get out in December. And, you know, he's kind of just waiting for the Callum Smith-Beterbiev fight. We feel like we can make the winner of that fight, obviously, particularly if it's Callum. If it's Beterbiev, I think that fight can still get made. But he will fight this year, or worse way, first or second week of January.
What level of opponent can you look at, and who realistically is available on that?
Anyone in the top 15, he's not bothered. You know, and it's like, that's one of the problems is Dmitry Bivol is so good that any fight against anyone in the top 15 can sometimes be a little bit underwhelming. But he needs to fight. He's had a hand injury that's made him be out. You know, he was ready to fight from November. So, you know, we've got to make sure that we get him out before that hopeful, undisputed fight.
Any chance that we still see the Canelo rematch, or is that gone?
So, no, I mean, I don't think that, you know, I think Canelo would want that fight. I don't know whether Reynoso would or whatever, but obviously I think the PBC will be looking at their guys, but I think they're in a difficult position because I guess the plan would have been the Charlo brother, but after the last Saturday, is that really a fight that we want to see? So, over to them.
Did you make a report of around that 600 mark, pay-per-view boys, 600,000 that is?
I don't know, look, I've heard lower, could be that, I don't know, but Canelo's the biggest draw in boxing in America. He's the face of boxing in America, really, and we keep talking about other people. They're big in big fights. Canelo's just big all the time, but, you know, I think the market's changing, you know. I think the price point's at, you know, 90 quid, 90 bucks. It's 70 pounds.
Eddie, don't ever do that to the UK fans, at least.
I get told off when it's 24.95, and I get it all round, but yeah, it's a very expensive price point.
Eddie, just away from that one, but talking about pay-per-views, potential Eubank Jr-Benn fight, where do we stand? I saw your comments that it could be done by the end of next week.
Yeah, I think if it's going to be done, it will be done by the end of next week. We have 2 international sites that want to host that fight. We want to do the fight in Britain at the Millennium Stadium or another major arena that we're talking to, 23rd of December. And we're going to speak to the board, or we have done, and it's ultimately up to them. Legally, we feel like he's absolutely 100% clear to box in the UK. He's not suspended. We understand there's a appeal, which looks like it could roll on till December or January, I don't know. But we feel he's allowed to box in the UK. Obviously, we hope the board feel the same way. If they do, we get that fight in Britain. If not, we do it internationally. But that's the decision now, to just confirm the deal with the international site whilst going back to the board and saying it's over to you.
On the back of your discussions with the board, are you more confident or less confident that you will see that fight take place?
There's been a lot of butting heads, and they definitely want to appeal. But I think they also, well, I know they will have to legally acknowledge that he is clear to fight in this country because he's not suspended. And if he loses the appeal and he's suspended, he's definitely not clear to fight in this country, and perhaps not in any commission around the world. But that's not the case. So I think that, you know, I don't know, they're going to have to take their own advice. But there is that, you know, if the board came back to us and said, we appreciate the position and, you know, we have to let him fight, but we'll see what happens after the appeal, the fight gets made in 24 hours and it's happening in England. If not, we will do it internationally, but our preference, of course, is to do it in the UK.
International sites, I know in the past Abu Dhabi was explored as an option. Is that one of the options?
One of, yeah.
And just away from that one, but sticking with the 23rd, I saw some reports yesterday that there seems to be an ever-growing confidence Fury-Usyk could also land on the 23rd. Would you still go up against that?
I'm not sure. You know, you hear obviously people come straight out and say feed information and this to disrupt people, but for us, obviously, when we get that fight over the line, we would go to Saudi Arabia, or we go to Alex Krasuk or maybe Queensbury and say, look, we're going on the 23rd. Do you know if you're going yet? Because it would, of course, affect our decision. It doesn't make sense for either fight to go on the 23rd. But if we have to wait until October 30th, we will probably go anyway, because we can't wait that long for a decision. So I don't think the fight will happen on the 23rd, because I think time the training camp finishes, time the Ngannou fight finishes. I don't think Usyk, I know Usyk would rather fight in January or February, but there's a lot of money, so he'll do whatever he has to. So we'll see. But again, no value at all in both going on the 23rd, but it's our date that we've been planning a long time. But as always, we'll have to be versatile if it means coming up against a fight that would commercially affect the show.
It seems to be ever-growing, more, I don't say confidence, but more likely that Showtime are going to be leaving boxing, Eddie. They've apparently a PPC that he's spoken with Amazon Prime. Just your thoughts on that potential move, and if you'd be happy to see DAZN potentially link up with PBC as well.
I mean, look, I think when you don't have a broadcast partner, you know, it's worrying times. We've not been in that position, but I would hate to be in that position. But PBC have a good brand, they have a good roster. I'm sure they're talking to everybody because they need now to do a deal. I'm sure they'll talk to DAZN. I'm sure they'll talk to Amazon. I'm sure they'll talk to Apple, NBC, ABC. I mean, ESPN's contract's coming up with Top Rank. I don't know. But you know, I've seen a lot of people that I kind of feel like with my back and forward with Espinosa, I would be the one who you'd expect to come out and say, see you, Stephen, and buy Showtime, but not at all. I think we're going to miss Showtime. And I'm not a massive fan of Espinosa. I don't think he's a massive fan of mine. But I do respect his hustle. And I do know that he's made big moves. He's kept the sport bubbling. He's given us some great fights. But I did say a few years ago that the business doesn't work for them. So people above Stephen will look at it as an overview, as broadcasters will in this country as well, and go, the business just isn't the same anymore. So we're out. And, you know, I think it's a blow for boxing. I don't think it's something to celebrate. Genuinely, like. And
that leads into my next question, Eddie, and sorry to interrupt, but obviously we had HBO leave a few years ago. That was obviously a big loss. If Showtime do end up leaving as well, it's another huge loss. Is that not a concern moving forwards of broadcasters leaving the sport?
It is, but then you get new broadcasters coming in. So ESPN come in and start reinvesting in boxing previously. DAZN come in and really heavily invest in the sport. Amazon maybe come in, and so it's just a cycle, you know. But the traditional broadcasters, it's sad to see them leave the sport, like HBO and Showtime, but the world is changing. The way people digest content is changing. The platforms and the streaming element is changing. So you're going to see that. But you're not going to see no broadcasters pick up boxing. It's a very hot sport. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't, but it's always topical. It's always, full of exposure and hype and digital conversation and conversion. So I don't worry for boxing at all, but I would have liked to have seen Showtime stay.
There are rumours Showtime might put a show on the 9th, a Floyd Mayweather exhibition. Just get your thoughts on that, because that could clash with obviously Haney-Prograis.
Honestly, a Floyd Mayweather exhibition, I see no danger to us over the Devin Haney-Prograis fight. We went on sale yesterday. We sold out every pre-sale ticket, nearly 5,000 tickets just on the pre-sale. So I think it's a big fight. We've got the press conference coming up a week on Tuesday in San Francisco, and you wait till these two come together. This is a mega fight, Haney against Prograis. I don't worry about Floyd doing his little bits and pieces. The real fight December 9 is Haney-Prograis.
There's a few formats. I'm leaving a final word to yourself. Anything you'd like to leave on? Anything you'd like to say ahead of tomorrow night?
Yeah, just enjoy the night. Sit down, watch before the bell, but from 7 p.m, watch a great night of boxing. Watch the atmosphere build. There's limited tickets left if you want to come. Join the 5K tomorrow as well in Sheffield and enjoy a great night of boxing. If you want to stay up, if you're a hardcore fan, you've got Zurdo Ramirez against Joe Smith straight after from America, another great fight. And next week on DAZN, you've got KSI against Tommy Fury. I think I'm going to go. Are you going?
I'm not going, no idea.
Really? Why?
It's not my love for the sport, shall we say.
Not your love for the sport, or Boxing News not going to cover it?
Boxing News will be there, just not me.
Yeah, it's an interesting one. Do Boxing News cover it? Because it's like, I always think with Boxing News, it's like it's the absolute trade publication, right? But you have to move with the times as well. But once you go that way, you're letting your core subscription down. So you imagine if Boxing News went with KSI Tommy Fury front cover, the hardcore would go mad. I know, but you do, at some point, you also have to acknowledge the bigger world. But I think Boxing News needs to stay true to his roots, which I'm sure it will do.
So you got no chances on dipping your toes back into that world again?
Honestly, listen, if I was 10 years younger and business was different and I was at a different stage in my life, and I would be all over it like a rat up a drain pipe, honestly. But I just can't, like you, genuinely, I'm going to take my kids, I think, they love it. But I just can't sit there and almost not laugh. But I've said before, it doesn't mean I can't respect it. Caller's a good friend of mine. I've not met Mams, but what he's done with Misfits is unbelievable as a brand. And it's been great for DAZN. And I think there is a benefit to boxing, but I just can't, I couldn't sit at a press conference between Logan and Dylan Dennis and feel like this is a bit of me. Do you know what I mean? But I watch it, I think it's great, but I love sport. I love elite sport, I love grassroots sport, but tomorrow night is honestly what makes me tick. That is a night that I go to, and for people that might not particularly like Matchroom or like me, I know when you build a card like tomorrow night, everyone will go, fair play, this is a great night of boxing. That makes me happy. That gives me my happiness that I can sit down and people watching will enjoy themselves. Watching the best fight the best. That's, so the other stuff I think can exist. And I think it's a great product. But I will be there as a dad.
Well, you might have to take your fight kit because John Fury's going to be in the corner. So
just take my shirt off, So no, good luck to everyone.
Eddie, appreciate it, thank you.